Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are looking at A-level psychology, the optional topic of gender. So before we jump into this, I'll be going through all the optional topics. I've also got all the compulsory topics already on my channel. If you want to go have a look at them, feel free to subscribe and comment below any questions you have, and either myself or your fellow students will get back to you with answers, and whoever gets there first. And of course, like the video as well if you found it useful so that other students can see it. But yeah, let's just jump straight in. So starting off with sex and gender. So the key thing to remember at the very basics of this topic is there is a difference between sex and gender. So sex is whether a person is biologically male or female. So essentially looking at their sex organs and their chromosomes. Whereas gender is the more social side of it. So whether a person is psychologically masculine and or feminine. The different sexes have different sex role stereotypes, which are social and cultural expectations of how males and females should behave. An example of this is women are more nurturing than men, or men like football but women don't. Obviously, these are classic stereotypes you would hear. Some stereotypes can be valid to a degree, so there's a stereotype that men tend to be more aggressive than women, and this actually has valid biological differences to back this up, as males have high testosterone levels, which is linked to aggression. These stereotypes can have a negative effect on groups within society. So the stereotype of women may be less likely to go into STEM careers, obviously may encourage them not to go into a STEM career, or they can also make groups in society feel unsafe. Obviously, stereotypes around transgender individuals and homophobic stereotypes. So if someone has a mix of both masculine and feminine traits, they are called androgynous, and this extends beyond just how they look. Just as a clarity, there is a psychological aspect to this. How androgynous a person is can be measured using the BEM sex role inventory. So this was developed in 1974 by BEM. It is used to measure a person's masculine and feminine traits via self-reported ratings on a scale of 1 to 7. For 60 items. 20 of these refer to masculine traits, 20 refer to feminine, and 20 are neutral. BEM in 1977 describes 4 personality types: masculine, feminine, androgynous, so giving a high fem, high mas score, and undifferentiated, so low fem, low mask. BEM argues that androgyny is psychologically healthy and advantageous as it enables a person to adapt and excel in more situations. This relates to the fact that males and females genetically tend to be better at some things. Whereas androgyny allows them to be better in a greater variety of situations. Part of this is the fact it's got good retest reliability. So BEM followed this up again, and it's given similar results, so it can be relied upon. And there's also support from Flaherty and Dusek in 1980. Again, I like all my videos. I'm really sorry if I pronounce anyone's names wrong. But on the other hand, there is cultural and temporal validity. Obviously, gender especially varies across cultures, and like the stereotypes that are within this. There's temporal validity as well. Obviously, these stereotypes and gender norms or gender roles will be different 100 years ago than they are today. And then also, in reference to the BEM sex role inventory specifically, this is very subjective due to its self-report nature. And then looking at biological influences on gender development. So starting with chromosomes, so each cell in the body, with a few exceptions, has chromosomes that carry genetic information, with humans having 23 pairs. The 23rd chromosome pair determines gender, so if you have XX chromosome, then you are biologically female, but XY chromosome pair is male. The Y chromosome is responsible for the formation of testes and high testosterone levels. Atypical sex chromosome patterns are when a person has a 23rd chromosome pair other than XX or XY. So an example of this is Klinefelter's syndrome. So they have a chromosome pair of XXY. So this is when a male is born with XXY chromosomes rather than XY, affecting roughly 1 in 750 males. And characteristics of this are less body hair, poorly functioning testes, weaker muscles, taller height than average males, low libido, and difficulty in social situations. Then you have Turner syndrome. So this is when a female is born with only one X chromosome, affecting around 1 in 5,000 females, and characteristics include no menstrual cycle, undeveloped breasts, above average reading abilities, and social immaturity. Then looking at hormones, obviously this relates to chromosomes a little bit, but so hormones are chemical products produced in the glands, and all humans produce the same hormones, just in different amounts. So testosterone is a primary sex hormone in males, having about 10 times the level compared to women. And around 8 weeks of pregnancy, the testes start producing testosterone, which causes physical changes, such as masculinization of the brain, so greater spatial reasoning, etc. And after birth, it's associated with stereotypical male behaviour. On the other hand, estrogen is associated with females who have about 10 times more than males, which leads to feminizing effects on the brain. So an example of this is greater verbal fluency, and associated with typical female behaviours and PMS, which PMS relates to stress, anxiety, irritability, for example, symptoms of that. Then we have oxytocin, aka the love hormone, which is associated with bonding, nurturing, trust, and this is typically higher in women, with the effects amplified by estrogen. It causes contractions during birth and stimulates lactation, which could explain sex role stereotypes for childcare and relationships, and changes how we respond to stress. In terms of the AO3 aspect of this topic, so there's research evidence of it. So for an example, this is Van Goosen et al. In 1995. But on the other hand, this involves animal studies in terms of the research support. Obviously, that's not ideal. We can't necessarily take what we learn from animals and apply it directly to humans. And also, it's just reductionist. Obviously, there is a lot more at play than just our chromosomes and hormones. So, yeah. Then we have cognitive explanations of gender development. So, firstly, starting with Kohlberg's theory of gender constancy. So, Piaget's theory of cognitive development argues that children's thinking changes as they grow up. And Kohlberg's theory of gender development is based on this, arguing that gender development occurs alongside general development, identifying the 3 key stages. Starting with gender identity between the ages of 18 months and 3 years. This is where they identify as male or female but do not recognise the stability of gender. Then there is gender stability between 3 to 5 years, realising that gender is stable but may not apply the same stability to others around them. And then gender constancy, so this is anything over the age of 6 years, realising that theirs and other people's gender is permanent and constant over time, and in different situations despite superficial change. After this, they seek out role models who match their gender. Support for this is it's holistic and works alongside other theories or explanations, such as Piaget's theory. Although Bussey and Bandura, 1992, suggest that it may actually take place earlier than this, earlier than the 18-month to 6-year period. Then we have the gender schema theory. So Martin and Halverson in 1981 and Bem, also in 1981, argue that children start developing gender schema at around 2 to 3 years, which are used to make sense of the world and also affect how the child behaves. Over time, schemas develop along with other developments, but around age 8, they develop schemas for the opposite gender as well. These gender schemas become more flexible as they get older. In support of this, Martin and Little in 1990 observed children aged 3 to 5 and found that they have already developed schemas by this point. However, these may not necessarily influence behaviour. There's a lot of other factors at play. Now moving forward onto the psychodynamic explanations of gender development. Freud's psychoanalytic theory explains behaviour as a result of conflicts between different parts of the mind, the id, ego, and the superego. Childhood development involves 5 conflicts and 5 psychosexual stages. During the phallic psychosexual stage, 3 to 5 years, is where gender develops. This follows a pattern of developing a sexual attraction to their opposite sex parent and a dislike of their same-sex parent, resolved by identifying with the same-sex parent and so internalising the same-sex parent's personality into their own, which settles their gender. Now, there's 2 different complexes here based on the gender, so you have Oedipus complex for males and Electra complex for females. Starting with the Oedipus complex, so during the phallic stage, the boy develops an unconscious sexual desire for his mother, leading to unconscious feelings of jealousy and hatred towards his father. The boy's id, unconscious and instinctive part of the mind that is only concerned with pleasure, wants to kill the father and have the mother for himself. The boy's ego, the practical part to mediate the id and reality, recognises the father is stronger, leading to fear and castration anxiety. To resolve this, the boy abandons his desire and identifies with the father, not the water. He doesn't identify with water, he identifies with his father. Apologies for that. And incorporates his personality into his superego as well as his gender. Then, on the other hand, we have the Electra complex. So this shows how females go through this process. So again, at the phallic stage, the girl believes she does not have a penis as it is being castrated and has panic envy, so develops a desire for the male, obviously because he has the penis that she desires, developing a dislike for the mother as she blames the mother for the castration and competition for father's love. To resolve these conflicts, the girl represses dislike for her mother and identifies with her, internalising her personality into her superego as well as her gender. Desire for a penis substituted for a desire for a baby. Support comes from Freud in 1909, doing a case study of little Hans, or Hans, but on the other hand, there is conflicting theories such as schema theory. Then we have the social learning theory explanations of gender development. So SLT explains gender as resulting from observation and imitation of gender role models. So an example of this is parents, sibling, peers, as well as media and the culture. And specifically for this, we're going to be looking at the media and culture. So for the media, so Bandura and Bussey in 1999 give examples of media representing gender. So TV shows portray men as ambitious and with high status jobs, whereas women are typically portrayed as unambitious and in domestic or low status roles. Adverts typically have women promoting food and beauty and men promoting tech, cars and financial products. McGee and Frew, I have no idea if that's how you say his name, in 1980 found a correlation between media exposure and stereotypical views of sex roles, and then children observe these role models in the media, identify and imitate them. Then in terms of culture, so if gender roles were biological, you'd expect them to be consistent across cultures, but they are socially constructed, so gender role vary per culture. This is a little bit about what we spoke about at the beginning, that cultural validity issue. And Mead in 1935 studied gender roles in 3 different tribes in Papua New Guinea. So there was one tribe, the Arapesh, where both men and women are caring and peaceful. Mundagamore, I'm going to absolutely butcher these names, and I apologise in advance. Both men and women are aggressive and warlike in this tribe. And then you have the Chambuli, where women are workers and organised society, and the men decorated themselves. There's some pros to these, so research support, obviously, which you can see in each text box, and also explains gender stereotype variations in terms of why they're different around the world. But of course, there is temporal validity to this. Obviously, this all changes a lot. You notice now that there's a lot of change in the way that media represent gender roles, and gender roles within culture as well is changing a lot. It also doesn't consider biology, so again is reductionist, doesn't take in the whole picture of how gender development is developed. Then to finish off, we have atypical gender development, so gender dysphoria, which is a condition where a person's biological sex does not match their psychological gender, often beginning in childhood and causing anxiety and depression. So looking at biological explanations for this, so there's genetics. So twin studies support a genetic basis of gender dysphoria. An example of this research is Diamond in 2013, as well as gene association studies with Hare et al. 2009. Then we have hormones, so focusing on prenatal hormone levels, as this impacts brain development when the child is developing. An example of this is Erickson-Schroth in 2013 found 5.2% of females with congenital adrenal hyperplasia develop gender dysphoria, which is much higher than average. Then you have brain structures. So Zhu et al. In 1995 used post-mortems and suggested the male to female trans individual had more feminine brain structures. So that's looking at the individual that's going from a male gender to female gender. So again, research support, these which are all included in the explanations. But obviously with the twin studies, the concordance rate was not 100%, which suggests there is other factors at play. If it was purely just biological, then the concordance, you'd be looking to see the concordance as 100%. Then you have social explanations. So social learning theory again, so SLT, would say that gender dysphoria is caused by children observing and imitating role models. So an example of this is a boy observes a mother getting compliments wearing a dress, vicarious reinforcement, and then imitating that. And cross-gender behaviour may also be reinforced via operant conditioning. So parents praise the boy for wearing a dress. Again, research supports, so Reckers and Lovas in 1974. But in terms of this, for an example is that transgender people often face a lot of backlash. And by this theory, receiving this backlash should deter them from wanting to be transgender. But alas, it does not. So that suggests that social explanations are, of course, not the only thing at play. And yeah. But that is everything for gender. I hope you guys found this video really useful. Please let me know in the comments below if you have any feedback or questions. And I shall see you soon. Bye.